Hey everybody, Alex Weaver here from my living room in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're Backseat Drivers and we're back and I'm excited. And NASCAR.com breaks down the top 25 in what we like to call our driver draft. And it wouldn't be a true Backseat Drivers episode if I didn't welcome in the rest of my Backseat Drivers. So I'm going to welcome in now Kim Coon and Jonathan Merriman. Hey guys, how you hanging in there?
Doing good.
I showered for this, so I'm fantastic.
That's always a good thing. Kim has a new puppy. Merryman has 2 babies at home. So I'm sure it's not been very boring for you guys during quarantine.
No, not at all. Puppy right now has got a chew toy, so hopefully it keeps him busy while we do the driver draft. But if you hear like a bark or something, it's probably because he disagrees with the ranking. So
both of them know sit and roll over.
So. True. That is true. All right. Well, at least we know they're both trained. Okay, let's break down these drivers that we have. It's the top 25. Members of NASCAR.com have voted on these. We may disagree with each other and with the rankings, but let's start with 25 through 21. 25th coming in is Hailie Deegan. Then we have 24 is Clint Bowyer. 23 is Kurt Busch. 22 is John Hunter Nemechek. And 21 is Soul 7 time with Jimmie Johnson.
I'll tell you, I did not put Jimmie very high up on my list, and that's not because of his accomplishments. It's only because so I took the approach of this is a driver draft. I'm building a team. I'm looking towards the future. Jimmie's in his final season. That's why I put him a little bit down the list. It probably swayed some of the rankings a little bit, but that's the only reason I did that. One person that surprised me on here, though, was John Hunter Nemechek. I didn't think he would be as high as he is, but I will tell you that the season that he was having in the front row equipment, and I think he was overperforming, he's looking pretty solid in that equipment. So I mean, 22 is a little bit of a shock to me, but when you think about what he's been able to do so far this season with the limited time we've seen on track, I think he deserves that ranking.
I'm going to go with Merriman on the Jimmie Johnson thought. At first, I originally thought he was too low because we're talking about the GOAT 7 time. But then you remember, like, he is retiring soon, and we're trying to look at longevity here if we're drafting a team. So I think he's just right in where he's situated. Some others that stuck out to me in this little chunk were Kurt Busch. Honestly, I'm not sure I would have had him in my top 25 because, again, I feel like he's close to the end of his career. Yes, he's been pretty good the last 2 seasons, better than he had been, I would say, in the last 5 years. He's got personality, but he's at the end of his career, I think. And then another that jumped out of me in this group was Hailie Deegan. I would have liked to see her ranked slightly higher. I think she's got an it factor and the potential to bring in new fans. She's one of the only competitive female drivers. And we've seen how quickly she's acclimated to NASCAR racing and how she's proved herself on the tail and inside. So she's young. She's got a lot of time left to prove she's a superstar. So 25th to me seemed a little low for Hailie.
This might be a Backseat Drivers first. I agree with both of you guys because I think Hailie Deegan is ranked way too low on this. If I'm starting a team, you have to think about how many followers and how in the public eye that girl is. She also is carrying the banner for females in the sport. She brings in some of the top sponsors that you can think of. So if I'm starting a team and I know not what only comes with the talent of Hailie Deegan, but with the whole package of Hailie Deegan, way too low in my book. I also wouldn't have Kurt Busch, Clint Bowyer, or Jimmie necessarily that high, which I know those are all winning drivers, and Jimmie Johnson with 7 championships, but they're all at the end of their careers, I feel like, or at least making their way towards the end of their careers. So I don't know if I'd have them as high up. John Hunter Nemechek, I'm a little surprised too, Merriman.
Yeah, and I would say, don't take this the wrong way. I mean, Deegan does not have a National Series start, so you have to keep that in mind. She made this top 25 list without a National Series start. She's got a couple ARCA Menard Series starts under her belt, and sure, she's performed well. So, I think 25th and kind of tempering expectations and letting that build, I think that's pretty solid for 2020. Now, when we get to 2023, 2024, and, her career goes the way that we think it's going to go, I think 25th would definitely be too low on the list.
Let's just talk about the monster drivers on this chunk right here. So would you rather have Kurt Busch or Hailie Deegan on your super team? Because I'm going Hailie Deegan all the way.
Well, I mean, it just depends. It depends how you want to look at it. Do I want to win today in the NASCAR Cup Series? I want Kurt Busch. Do I want to build for 5 years down the road? I want Hailie Deegan. And also, let's remember here, it depends on who you pick higher up in the order. It's a draft. You're not picking 4 guys in a row. You're going to have to weed through. People are going to get picked over a little bit here. So it all depends on who's on your roster as well in the earlier rounds.
All right, I can get on board with that. These next 4 that we're going to talk about are new to the driver draft board. They were not in the driver draft in 2019, but they're now making an appearance, and they're clocking in at 20 through 16. So 20 is Corey Lajoie, 19 is Ross Chastain, 18 Chase Briscoe, 17 Harrison Burton, and 16 Chris Buescher. Man, the age on those 4 are quite young.
Yeah, lots of youngins there. And for me, this was a group where I disagreed with a lot of the rankings. Let's start with Corey Lajoie at 20th. I know he wasn't ranked last year, so this is just a jump getting on the top 25 draft list, but I feel like he should have been a few positions higher. I think he's got a lot of potential as a driver, and we just have not seen it because he hasn't been in the highest grade equipment. He's been on teams that have limited resources, but he has so much personality. He's got a fan base with his podcast, Sunday Money. He isn't afraid to speak his mind. And again, I just feel like we have not seen the potential he has on the track. So 20th seemed a little too low for Corey. Same with Ross Chastain. We're talking about a guy who is the hardest working driver in NASCAR. He races in all 3 series, races as many races as he can. We've seen him win in 2 of the 3 top touring series in NASCAR. He's another one that has a lot of personality, a great story. And again, I know he wasn't on the top 25 list last year, but I just feel like we're talking Ross Chastain. He's been all over the headlines this year and last year, and he deserved to be higher. One big surprise out of those 5 that you just listed was Chris Buescher. I found the ranking of 16th a little surprising for him. That's not to say that he doesn't have talent, and we haven't seen that talent, but we haven't really seen, in my opinion, a lot from him in terms of consistent finishes. Yeah, he's got a little personality. I don't know that we've seen all of it. So to me, Chris Buescher at 16th was a huge surprise, especially considering he wasn't even ranked in 2019.
I'm a huge Chris Buescher fan. I think he is one of the most underrated drivers in the garage. He's the only driver in that list, Kim, with a Cup Series win. Got that at Pocono. It was due to fog, but it still counts. I think I am perfectly fine with 16 through 20, exactly how it netted out. I do think Corey is a little underrated, but he hasn't had proper equipment to prove himself in. So, it's funny to say that 20th is a little conservative for him because, we all believe that he can run a little bit better. I think Ross Chastain might be, a little bit too low on the list. I think we all know what he's capable of doing. I think he could be bumped up a little bit higher. Harrison Burton certainly can get it done behind the wheel of an Xfinity car. He really impressed me last year in the Xfinity Series, jumping in for a few races, going toe-to-toe, how he handled himself when he got into it with Paul Menard a little bit. So everyone in that 20th through 16 range, I'm perfectly happy where they're at. I don't have any qualms or anything about where any of them netted out.
Qualms, good word. I am going to agree with both of you because I liked this grouping. I definitely think Corey Lajoie is very underrated. However, I think to move him a little bit higher for me, I would like to see him get more of an opportunity and be in some better equipment just to see what he can do because we think that the talent is there, but I would like to see it. Ross Chastain is the only one that I think is a little underrated. Kim, you said it. He is Xfinity. He's trucks. He's Cup. He is running constantly around the garage every single weekend. And he's one of those that if you see him close to a finish line, he's going to race you pretty hard to get that win. So I like this pairing. A lot of young guys. We have all 3 of the Xfinity drivers are in this one. Okay, next up, let's move it right on along to 15 through 11. We have 15, a rookie coming in is Cole Custer. He was 18th in 2019. He's now moved up to 15th. Then we have Matty D, who was 25th. It was his first time on the driver draft board in 2019. He's now up to 14. Martin Truex Jr. went from 8th and fell to 13th. Tyler Reddick was 24th last year. He's now 12th. And then rounding out the rookie class for 2020 is Christopher Bell at 11th.
I think, in looking at that pairing, Truex is the one that sticks out, falling from 8th down to 13th. Two things to remember here, and one of them I don't think has anything to do with why I ranked him where he's at. I think a lot of people get hung up on the fact that Cole Pern is not with him anymore. I think that's why he fell a little bit. It didn't affect why I voted him a little bit down. Age, again, was the factor in voting him down the list for me. I mean, he's definitely not as young as Custer, DiBenedetto, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell. I mean, there's only, one out of those 5 that have gray hair, and that's Martin Truex Jr. So, and look, he could race for another 5 years. We're not going to write him off. He's from a family of race car drivers. Certainly, if he's winning races, he's passionate about it. He's not just going to walk off into the sunset, knock on wood. But, I mean, when you're looking at it, building a team, that's something you have to take into account.
I hate to agree with Merriman, but out of those 5, and it's because of who he's grouped with, Martin Truex Jr. sticks out like a sore thumb. And I think it's because of age, but he does have a lot of racing left in his career. I would have liked to have seen Martin Truex Jr. closer to the top 10 or even within the top 10 just because of the type of caliber driver he is. He is capable of winning multiple Cup Series races in a single season. We have seen him do it time after time. This is no exception this year. And looking at the other guys kind of in that grouping, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Matt DiBenedetto, Cole Custer, really, Martin Truex Jr., I think, is the only one of those 5 that has the potential for multiple Cup Series wins in a single season. The other guys just don't have the experience. So for me, Martin was a little bit of an oddball in that grouping. And then I also want to say Tyler Reddick, I would have liked to have seen just a little higher, maybe even 11th or 10th in the ranking, because he's got back-to-back NASCAR Xfinity Series championship. He's moved up to Cup. I think he's got more personality than people realize. And he hasn't been in a Cup car that long, and we've already seen so much potential. Think about what we saw from him in Phoenix earlier this season. I mean, he was up there giving it to some of the Cup veterans, and there were a lot of people cheering for him. And so Tyler, for me, could have been a rank or 2 higher, but still coming in 12th, I think pretty good considering he was 24th last year.
I'll disagree with one thing Kim said. I think Matt DiBenedetto in Penske-prepped Wood Brothers equipment could win more than one race this year.
Okay.
She's gonna hold her hands up on that one. All right.
Do you want a little gentleman's bet?
Still got 2 Bristols to get to, so.
I will say the one that I'm surprised about, and I've been an advocate of his, I thought he was going to have the strongest rookie year out of the 3 rookies that we talked about being the potential for rookie of the year. I would move Cole Custer a little heavier up. I like him in that SHR equipment. He's got the highest points out of that rookie class right now. I like the Custer.
I think he's got the best in terms of people surrounding him that can help him. Bell's up there as well, and he's got, the Gibbs contingent behind him, but Cole Custer's in-house at SHR with guys like Rodney Childers and Kevin Harvick. I mean, that in itself with Tony Stewart pulling the strings, I mean, I think you have a point.
Wow, I'm going to get that in writing and mark the date when you do
that. Remember this day.
All right, let's go into the next group. It's going to be our 10 through 6. This is a heavy hitter group, too, with a lot of talent in this group. We have Erik Jones, who was 10th in 2019. He stays 10 for 2020. We have Brad Keselowski, who was 5th in 2019. He's now dropped a couple slots to 9th. Then you have Bowman, the showman, Alex Bowman. He moved up heavy. He's probably our biggest mover of the past year. He went from 23rd in 2019 to 8th in 2020. Then you have Kevin Harvick, who was 7th last year. He's now 7th this year. And Denny Hamlin moved up from 11th in 2019 to 6th in 2020. Heavy hitters in this group.
This group to me seemed pretty reasonable. I probably would have shuffled them around a little bit. Erik Jones at 10th is the one to me out of the 5 that I am kind of scratching my head at. I know he was ranked 10th in 2019. I don't feel like he's done anything to deserve keeping that position. I would have seen him probably 11th through 15 if it was strictly my chart. Yes, he's won multiple Cup Series races, but it's been over the course of the last couple of years. He's won the Southern 500, I know, but I just feel like we had so many higher expectations for Erik Jones. Like, he should have been in victory lane more times than he has been. So, yeah, Erik, for me, probably would have ranked 11th through 15th. Again, I don't know that he's done anything to keep the top 10 that he had last year. The others, at first I was like, ooh, Kevin Harvick, that's pretty high considering his age. And then I remembered that he re-upped earlier this year to stay racing with SHR through 2023. So that's another, if you're counting this year, 4 years of eligibility. So certainly Kevin Harvick deserves to be in that position. You know, he can win. He's proven that he can win. He's got a big fan base. I'm fine with Denny Hamlin at 6, certainly. Alex Bowman, I think, although he jumped significantly, you look at last year's ranking in 2019, he was 23rd on the list. Now he's 8th. I think Alex, that is a significant jump, but I would argue maybe he could have even gotten top 5, possibly, just because he has really set it on fire. We've seen him in victory lane multiple times. I think we're just scratching the surface of his potential. You know, these last couple of years at Hendrick are the first time we've seen him in really good equipment, and he's getting kind of a groove with Greg Ives, and he has a lot of personality off track. I'd like to see a little bit more of that on track. And then, again, who doesn't love his dogs? One of the other things that stands out to me, Brad Kay on this list. I don't know that we have that many years left with Brad Kay. He's already kind of set himself up for what's after NASCAR. So he probably wouldn't have fallen in the 6 through 10 category for me, even though he's kind of at the border in 9th.
So what stands out to me about this group is that 8, 9, and 10, I don't think have plans to go racing next year. I think they're planning on racing next year. I don't think they have a deal done, which – it's early to start talking about this, but look, we're all locked up in our houses and this is all we have to do. So don't kill me that bad. But you think about these guys being ranked in the top 10 of a driver draft and they don't have anything secured on paper for the upcoming season. That's really what sticks out to me. And the only other thing, Kim, the exact same Harvick thought went through my head, and I was like, oh, he just re-upped. So that makes perfect sense. But Denny Hamlin, now I don't want to reveal who our 5th place driver is just yet, but I think Denny Hamlin should be 5th, and that 5th place driver be ranked 6th. That's exactly how I drafted him when I filled mine out. So I think Denny could be moved up a little bit.
I agree with Eric Jones. Yes, he has some iconic wins and some crown jewel wins, but at the same time, it's kind of what have you done for me lately? He's in some of the top equipment in the garage, and I just haven't seen – the finishes that I would have hoped for that 20 camp and Eric. So I would have him a little bit higher up. I like the Bowman move. I'm like you, Kim. I would maybe have him even 6th or 7th. I feel like sounds a little bit better than 8th. And you're right. Kevin Harvick's going to be racing till he's 80. So we'll just keep him at 7 for the next 5 or 6 years. And
Eric Jones is younger than Christopher Bell. Keep that in mind.
I mean, yeah, but if you're going to put who in a car, are you going Christopher Bell or Eric Jones? Because I'm going with Bell, who can pretty much wheel anything with a motor.
I'll take a Southern 500 trophy any day of the week.
All right, well, we'll agree to disagree. Okay, next up, let's get to our top 5 drivers. These are guys that we have seen in the garage and in victory lane. They're going to be here for a while, and some of them are championship drivers. So 5th place, we have old Slick Bill, Baolian Byron. He was 13th in 2019. He's now moved up to the 5th spot on the board. Ryan Blaney in 4th. He was 4th last year. He's staying 4th. He must like that number. Chase as well. His best buddy is 3. Chase Elliott will come in at 3. Joey Logano is going to stay in his position for 2 on the board, and then the 2-time champion, the Candyman, Kyle Busch, is ranking in at number 1 for the 3rd year in a row.
I think with this, I drafted Kyle Busch 1 in my ballot. I drafted Logano 2. I had Ryan and Chase flip-flopped. I had Ryan at 3. I had Chase at 4, and I think I had Denny at 5. So any way this shakes out, I think, no matter who's filling out a ballot, unless they're a diehard fan of someone else, this is probably going to be in no certain order the way that, the top 5 or 6 guys come off the board. You look at 1 and 2, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch, they're both champions. They're both, late 20s, early 30s, have a ton of time left to rack up championships, really have life, it seems like, figured out. So I don't think you're really worried about anything other than getting to the racetrack and going out there and performing. So that's why they're 1 and 2. Chase and Ryan, these are 2 guys who are now in the 4th, 5th years of their career. You expect them to show up to the racetrack. You expect them to win races. You expect them to not go 10 races without winning a race. So I think that's why they're up there. And you guys have talked about marketability. I mean, Chase is, most popular driver in NASCAR, and Blaney's got a following as well. So, these guys, what they've done on and off the racetrack, they've earned these spots. And I get why William Byron's up so high. He's got Chad Knaus coaching him. Rick Hendricks put a lot into him. He's got a hell of a lot of talent. Oh, and by the way, he's 22, 23 years old. So this top 5, I think, is the right top 5.
I'm going to agree with that for the most part. Like, out of all of the different pairings or groupings that we've had throughout these top 25, this to me makes the most sense. I don't particularly want or think there needs to be a lot of movement. If anything, would probably slide Chase Elliott back a notch or two, maybe flip him with Blaney. I think Merriman said that, or even in 5th. And that's only because I just want more personality out of Chase. And when I'm looking at my draft picks, like, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at finishes, potential, age, likability. And yes, Chase already has a huge fan base, but if we could just get a little bit more, not even edginess, just a little bit more personality out of him, I think he deserves to be in 3rd. But right now would flip-flop him probably with Ryan, just because I think, we know a little bit more about Ryan and who he is as a person, his likes, his interests. He's got, obviously, Glass Case of Emotion podcast, which doesn't hurt.
I smell some bias.
Yeah. So there's that. The thing that stands out to me, too, of this top 5 is age. I mean, Kyle Busch is the oldest of those, and he's not even that old, early 30s. So all of these guys have so much racing left in their careers. And I think that alone is a reason to have them in their top 5, because the time they have left, coupled with the talent, to me, is a no-brainer. William Byron at 5th, just because he hasn't won a cup race, kind of would be the only, maybe somebody wouldn't put him in your top 5. But to Merriman's point, he's paired with Chad Knaus, and it's inevitable. It's only a matter of time before he gets to victory lane.
So let's ask one question, because we see Alex Bowman at 8th and we see William Byron at 5th. Both Hendrick Motorsports, both clicking with their crew chiefs. Granted, one is Chad Knaus and one is Greg Ives. A little bit different caliber of wins there for those two. But is the only reason that we think William is at 5th and Bowman is at 8th is because the deal? Why are we – because one has wins in the Cup Series and one does not.
Well, look, there is – the levee's going to break at some point for William Byron. He cannot keep running how he's running with who he has around him and not win. It's a learning curve. The kid won in everything the first year he got in it until he got to the Cup Series. I think that was a reality check.
Invitational Series win already.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. I mean, he's won on Sunday with NASCAR's highest division runner right now. So look, we can just knock that off the board. But look, it's only a matter of time. And once he gets it down, it's going to be easy. The first time, that you're able to tie your shoes as a kid, right? The second time's easier and the third time's easier. I think that's what we're going to see here. Not saying that racing's like tying your shoes. A little bit more complicated, but you get the point.
I think if you're looking at the here and now, there's the argument that Alex Bowman and William Byron should be flip-flopped on the ranking, especially because I thought Alex should be a little bit higher. I would have had Alex probably at 6th or 7th, and in that case would have definitely switched Alex's position with William. But if you're looking at longevity and kind of potential, especially, we haven't seen him get to victory lane. Again, it's only a matter of time. And I think once he gets that first win, it's going to be bam, bam, bam. He's unstoppable kind of thing. But right now, as it stands, what we've seen, I probably would have William Byron and Alex Bowman switched.
You'd be crazy not to sign either one of them if you had the chance.
True. I think we all can agree on 1 and 2, though, with Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. The number of wins between those two are insane. Guys, thank you for joining me. It was nice to see you guys now that we're not in Studio 3. It's a little bit different, but we'll be back racing soon. Enjoy our driver draft. Log on to NASCAR.com for all of this information. We're going to have the draft all week long, so it's going to be a good segment for NASCAR to break down these drivers and who we think we should start a draft team with. So looking forward to it, guys. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you here soon on Backseat Drivers.
See ya.
Thanks.